welcome all JP and Rohan, non-geek, non-nerd hosts. Our guests can hear us and speak, and we are the show you're watching. You're watching the
Absolute game of nerd.
and who's our guest?
The only reason JP says because this is our third take because we had some technical difficulties here, but we're all good now. So what I said in the first take is one of the most common questions we get is, hey, do you have a recommendation for a comic book cleaner and presser? Both JP and I have really not done a ton of that, so there was no one at the time that we could personally recommend. However, many of you watch Mike from Lunch Money Comics, and you cannot watch a video of Mike's without him bringing up Jeff from Comic Spa, who is the man when it comes to cleaning and pressing. And I'll add, there is no better name for a comic book presser and cleaner than Comic Spa. So, Jeff, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys inviting me. After Mike talking about you guys, I was like, yeah, I'd like to find out what you guys are all about for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So we always start. So we are obviously going to talk about the cleaning and pressing. But before we get there, we always start with an origin story. And we've got to believe no one gets into comic book pressing and cleaning without a love for comic books. So that's what we want to hear the origin about first and kind of talk about that kind of stuff first. And then we can get into the business side later.
Sure. Yeah. For me, I'm a lot like Mike. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money. And as a kid, I had recently moved from Ohio to Massachusetts. And this was 1976. And I didn't know anybody. So, of course, I'd be going down to the corner store to pick up bread or milk or something. Of course, as a kid, we had the comic stands. And so I saw that one day and I had a little bit of extra cash in my hand. I'm like, So I went over and I grabbed a couple, and that's kind of how it started. I just enjoyed, reading them. And back then it was everything. So, well, not everything, but you had DC and Marvel. So, I didn't differentiate at that time. Like, there were different companies. Like to me, it was like I knew Joker, Batman, Superman, Hulk, Captain America, but I didn't know like they weren't tied to one another. It was kind of odd. So for me to start seeing that it was, different companies, that's when I started to understand stuff. So
I want to ask, on that first corner store trip that you had the extra money, one, do you remember what you bought? And two, do you still have those by any chance?
I actually do. And I gotta go back a little bit. Actually, it was because of my buddy Pete. He actually collected, and that's what he used to do, is take his bike down to the store, and he told me that that's where he got his books. But before I actually went to that stand, the first thing that we did, he wanted to take me into a mall that was not too far away. Of course, we'd be on our bikes, and they would have this indoor like flea market. And so there would be guys there, and he goes, look, I'm going to take you down there. He goes, there's going to be, the books will be a little bit cheaper. And he says, you'll be able to get more, because it really was about how many books could you get, And by then I was just starting to get a paper route, and I was just thinking, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get a bunch of them down there. So the first one that got me totally in love with comics, and I worked on this, and I'll tell you, I manhandled this book, and I got it to look better, but it was this one right here.
Oh, all right. You still got it. That's awesome. What number is that? Oh,
so
143?
Yeah, it's 143. Yep. So this was, and it's so funny that it was George Perez, and the fact that the storyline had Kang. I mean, for me as a kid, it was amazing because, like I said, I only knew those few characters. I didn't know a lot of characters. So when I got to pick up this book and I started reading it, it had Moondragon, it had Rawhide Kid, it had Hawkeye, it had Thor. And so of course I didn't know these characters. I'd heard a little bit of Thor, but I didn't know these other ones. So for me as a kid to start reading this book, the storyline, the plot was they went back to the Wild West and they were trying to find Kang. And so they did find him. Of course I didn't know who Kang was, but you're kind of learning as you read the book. And I'm looking at these characters. I'm like, how are these characters going to take on this guy that can, do so many things, and he's from the future? And towards the end of the book, like, you see the other characters like Hawkeye and Rawhide, doing their best. But in the end, so the other thing was they were all dressed in like incognito, like you didn't know who they really were. Like except Rawhide and Hawkeye, they fit perfectly into that time period. So they had Thor in his Donald Blake character. So he had a wide rimmed hat. He had this long cape. And he walked around with a cane. I didn't know what this guy, I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy going to, even take on Kang? And there's a point in which at the end of the book, excuse me, he finds his way into his lair, and he stands behind him in his chair, and finally Kang realizes he's behind. He turns around, and I'll tell you, as a kid, when I saw him take that cane and slam it on the ground, I was like, oh my God, that was, to me, was the coolest thing. And that's what gave me the bug right there. And honestly, you got to pick it up and read it sometime and just pretend like you don't know any of these characters. And it was like the coolest thing for me. And after that, I was sold. I was like, okay, I got to pick up the next comic, and I got to pick up the next comic, you know? So that's what got me into it.
That's a great story. I love it. So was Avengers your kind of main interest, or what tell us what else did you buy as you grew up? Like, wow. Yeah, love it.
So this was it. Yeah, this is what got me into it. And the reason I got into it was because, I mean, think of, you didn't have a lot of money. You wanted to get as many heroes as you possibly could get, right? So you would buy a book that had a lot of heroes in it, and that's what I did. I gravitated to, and of course that storyline is what hooked me immediately. So I started with that, and then I got into, you know, once I got to learn the other characters that were in Avengers, I started going after like all their individual, you know, their books. But again, I didn't have a lot of money. I just tried to collect. You know, I started with the Avengers, and then a few DC, but mostly Marvel. I was a big Marvel collector.
I want to ask, since you showed it, when did you get that Avengers one?
So this was back in 1981, I think, is when I got this. Yeah, and nice. You can see it's a little bit faded, you know, and it was hard to find these books even back then at a decent price. So this is actually one book I did not work on. I look at it now and I think, what could I have done to this to maybe, but it was very faded. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing with that one.
You know, I mean, but like if I had an Avengers one from my childhood, like I would not care less about the fate. Like there could be a no cooler Avengers one to have than the one I had as a kid. Like I don't have an Avengers one in general, but just saying if I did, like that's awesome.
Yeah, I had, you know, I didn't have like all the other big ones. The only other collection I really wish I had, because I got up to the point where in my collection I probably had, probably like 28,000 books at one point.
Whoa!
And of course, my buddy was even bigger than me, and Pete just sold his books, and it was local, and he had, and I'm not kidding you, he had 50,000 comics, and I'm telling you, if you've never seen what a basement looks like full of 50, and these were long boxes, and it was just amazing. I think I still have a couple pictures of what his basement looked like, but he collected everything. I mean, he was kind of like that guy. Posters, cards, baseball cards, regular paperback books. I mean, it was just amazing the things that he collected. I was never like, I was just mainly just comics and sometimes cards. Like I got the Star Wars when they came out in the 70s. I had the blue set, the red set, you know, I had those, but I didn't go really beyond other than some action figures. Like I had a few action figures, but that was kind of it for me. So,
yeah. Now, did you ever have a break, or has your interest in comics carried all the way through?
No, I kind of carried it with the Avengers only, but there was a point at which, because, you know, you get into college and, you know, you get bills. And so, of course, that was what I did with some of the money. I sold my books to pay for college. So, you know, I got rid of some of the books. So I did have a break. I'd say probably when I was about 23, 24, I stopped. And like a lot of stories I hear from a lot of people, it was probably, I didn't kind of get back into it. I was like 40, 48, 49. And just wish I had some of the books I had sold, you know, like everybody else. You have that regret, you know, you just wish you had kept them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that same way. I was out for a while after college, just to, you know, I still watched the movies, you know, was into the, not as, I guess I saw Iron Man, and then I didn't see Thor or Captain America, but then I filled in. And then when Avengers came out, I was, you know, definitely watching them, but I didn't go back to collecting. I had a short box from my childhood. I kept, you know, the majority of them were still in that short box, but I never looked. I looked at them occasionally, but I wasn't buying any more books, and the movies didn't trigger me to do that. So I don't know if that triggered you with the movies, or was it just?
No, actually, I think it did. Well, I did it before. So what happened to me was right around 2000. Actually, it's so funny. It was 1999, and I had some health issues. And so what I was trying to do was, I thought, you know what, I gotta do something with these books. I may have to sell the rest of them. And so I saw online, and it was so weird. It was just by circumstance. I went online and I saw there was a company that encapsulated. This was right when CGC was just starting off, and I didn't know that. I just assumed they had been around. And I thought, this is what I need to do. This seems to be the new wave of what to do next, especially after Overstreet. Overstreet was kind of like the company. They were the ones that kind of guided you as to, like what you should be doing with your books, how to take care of them. And then I saw this and I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. So, so the first thing, one of the first books I sent out were Tales to Astonish. I actually had a few Tales to Astonish books. And so this was one that I sent out, and these are really in great condition. I'm gonna get them over here. There it is. But I got to tell you, this was one of my. I wish I could take this back. So when I sent it in originally, I didn't do anything to it. So this was the label that I had. So I had a
7.0. Oh.
7.0. Well, you just saw. Now I worked on this, and I made it better, and then it got this. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I literally made the book look better, and I'm like, now why is it a 6 as opposed to not higher than a 7? I stopped. I really, it kind of scared me. I didn't want to send any more in of that time period because it made me think, geez, I was on the forefront. Maybe these guys never thought they would see books of a certain grade coming through their store, and then when they started to probably start seeing more and more. Because you figure I did this one when I sent it back in. This was, I think this was right around 2010, I think is when I sent this in, maybe 2012, somewhere right around there. So that kind of scared me off. And I refused to send in my original books, that I had because I was afraid. That they would come down in grade. And so I and it may be true. Maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason, the grading kind of changed. And actually, I think he kind of went into that. What's his name? Matt Nelson. I'm going to go by this. Matt did an awesome job with this book. I mean, I hate to plug, but this one, I'll tell you what, he did this takes the place to me of Overstreet because he really goes into, how everything's changed, like the defects. Now there's new defects because of what people are doing to their books, like because of the pressing and the cleaning. You got people using hydrogen peroxide. These are defects now that, kind of affect the books now, and they're getting them in there and they're grading them.
Is that book from someone that worked for CGC?
No, that is CGC's book that they released in the last year.
Yep, it was just this last year, and I thought I got to get it because I want to see. And he did I got to say, he did a phenomenal job, and I think he took it to the next level because he was being completely honest in there about the grading and everything. He wasn't hiding anything, and I thought, wow, I like this. I like how he did this, and so I bought it immediately because it kind of helped me because that's one of the things I do is when I get done with the books, I send photos to the CGC forum, and you don't have to be a member. You can just go ahead and you can put stuff in it. And the area that I go into is, hey, buddy, can you spare a grade? Yeah. So every time I'm done, I send pictures in there, and they get feedback from other people, that what they think the grade might be. So so that's kind of what I do, and then I put my own kind of grade in there too.
Nice. Did you, when you got that 7.0, and did you at all compare like the graders notes at all to see if that gave you any insight into that?
Yeah, back then this was kind of like you didn't see the graders notes at that time.
Okay.
This was before now they were handing them out. I think don't you get them? I think with every, I haven't sent anything out recently, so I don't know.
You can definitely look them up now.
They're down. They're online. They don't put them on the book, so you have to go get them online, which is kind of another pain in the ass.
But like the books now, they have that QR code that you can scan, and it'll take you right to it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I actually like that. That was a good idea, actually. So back then they didn't have stuff like that, so you just kind of had to go by. I think, in fact, what did they have on that sticker there? Let's see, real quick.
I mean, that's the thing too, is whenever they put it on the back of the book, if it was it was like a 2.0, it would be a paragraph.
Yeah.
So that QR code works, but you just kind of want to see quickly.
But I mean, in the back of the day, could you not look up like the certification number and then like have that pull up the page? I don't know. I obviously didn't grade back then.
Yeah, and that actually does bring up another issue now. If people if say, for instance, doing what I did, I did let them know that this was graded and that I was, sending it in again. There's a lot of people that are probably, cracking, sending them in. Are they letting CGC? So that kind of upsets the census a little bit.
Oh yeah. So theoretically you're supposed to send in the old label so that they can like cross it off the census. I have no data to say this, but my guess, I bet maybe 25% of people actually do that.
Yeah, I get the kind of feeling the same as you. I don't think, I've got nothing to go by, but I just get the feeling that a lot of people are doing that because they're looking to get that higher grade and not have it go, lower. They want it higher, obviously.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I would just think like human psychology would say like, if I send this label in that's a 7.0, there's no chance they're gonna bump me up that much higher because they don't want to do that or something like that. Like,
yeah,
you know what I say? Like, and like, because we do see people get grade bumps from like a 6.0 to a 8.5, let's just say, like, and I feel like people would think if I send in my 6.0 label, there's no way they're gonna be like, well, he couldn't have improved it that much without doing something to the book. And so like I feel like people
Yeah.
would just like not want to send it in, just hoping like, oh, it's a brand new book, like grade it as best as you can.
yeah, you hate to do it like that, but you do feel like it could be taken that way, that this might affect the next grade they go to give you, like, oh, can you really bump it? And I've kind of proven many times you can. I've taken a couple books, like, even, well, Mike had one. I remember the one, X-Men 101.
Yeah, he showed it to us. Was that like a 6.0 to a 7.5, maybe, was it?
I think it ended up going to, oh my God, see, I can't even remember now. I've done so many books, I lose back after a while. Was it that, or was it 8.0? Oh, I can't remember now. It was something like that. I mean, he was ecstatic. And I'll tell you, I wanted to do more stuff to it. I wanted to use the aqueous bath on it because he had one stain on the back side. It was very small, but he really wanted to get in to have Chris Claremont sign it. And I said to him, I said, Mike, I completely understand. But in the end, it was kind of a good thing he did leave it, because at this time period, when we were sending it in, this is when all of a sudden CGC started to realize, and I think they had people watching the internet. There's a lot of people doing hydrogen peroxide now. And I think they're starting to question the books they're getting in.
Oh, no, there's purple labels coming back when chemicals are used. Not, I mean, obviously some people get away with it, I'm sure, but no, absolutely. Like, I've definitely seen people get back purple labels that have used like chemicals in the cleaning.
Yep. And I was hearing stories of guys that were just doing what I was doing, which is basically I'm only dry cleaning it and pressing it. And I was hearing stories that they were getting purple labels, and they're like, what's going on here? It's like, I haven't done anything else. And so now, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I mean, the three things, like, there's a few different things that I do. Like, I'll use the light box, the blue light box, for foxing. But again, I don't use it a lot because I'm afraid I don't want to lose the color in the book itself. So I do cover where the color is if I can, because really, I can't really attack foxing in color. I can do it in the white areas, but you can't really do it in the color. Even though it's in there, it just doesn't show as much because of the color. You kind of hide it a little bit.
Yeah. So actually, since we're now on the topic of like cleaning and pressing, why don't you kind of tell us about where you learned everything, how you got started into the cleaning and the pressing? Like, I know Mike's mentioned that you used to or do still work in the paper industry. Kind of, how did you acquire this knowledge? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so right out of college, because I went into school for computer electronics. And so we were in college. And at the time, this is like 1980, 1981, we had a lot of local companies like IBM and some of the other big ones, Digital, that were in the area, that they were going to the colleges and they were actually looking for people, as you were coming out of class, to say, hey, we want to show you what our company can do. We'd like you to come down and take a look. And what they want to do is they wanted to really hire us, even without the degree, to be able to go work for them and then help them set their system, because this is in the forefront of people even having computers in their businesses. They didn't have them really yet. All you really had at that time was IBM, and those were pretty expensive, and they were big bulky units at that time, and they didn't talk to one another. They were all individual. So they wanted us, and so that's what we were in school, is to learn all this. And so a lot of the guys we had in the class, we watched slowly as the classes diminished, because they were taking off and going into these other places. So anyway, I ended up doing the same thing, because the money was really good, and I worked for a manufacturing company, and so I went in there trying to help with the computers, and then learned all about I ended up being in a lab, a QC lab, and so I ended up doing a lot of stuff in there. I learned a lot about paper and stuff. I learned, with moisture, with the heat, what it could take, what it couldn't take. We had different kinds of paper too, copy paper, other stuff. And so I had that past knowledge of using gas chromatographs and things of that nature with the testing that we had done. And then, so of course, by this time I'm not in comics or nothing. I had all this information in my head, using it, thinking it was only for, manufacturing, and that was it. And then later on, when it got to like 1999 and my son was born, and I was looking to, do something with my books, it wasn't until like 2010 that I realized, I saw on the internet that you can actually improve books. And that wasn't even a thought in my mind. That's why I was just, everything I got, I would just, if I had it, I sent it in. I didn't even think you could do anything to it at the time. But then it dawned on me, I'm like, well, hell, we used to do this, we did the stuff with paper all the time at work. I mean, comics can't be much different. So I did, I went out and bought really crappy books, and I see online guys that were doing this, because there were guys way before me. I'm definitely not the first ever. And I learned how they were using t-shirt presses and all this other stuff. And so I just went out and started getting it, and I started playing with them, and I could see every generation was different. 70s, 60s, everything, anytime I went to do something, I damaged it and couldn't figure out why. And then I learned over time kind of, why that was. And then in between companies, it was different. The papers were sometimes different. So that's kind of how I started doing it. After I learned it, it was really to improve my own books. That's what I was trying to do. I thought, I want to make what I have left in my collection, like my Avengers and some of the other stuff I had left over, the keys I wanted to make them better. Hence, this is one I worked on.
Nice.
Wow.
So 1975, I think this book came out. And so this one I knew had potential. And so this is probably the best result I ever got on a book that old. So you figure, let's see, June of 1975. So that to me, this is one I might keep just because I'm happy how that one turned out. Plus I got the signature. That was the other reason why I thought, oh my God, I definitely got to get, his Jim Starlin's signature. So this whole line, the 4 books that this came out, and I did every one of them actually, but this was the highest grade that I got. The other ones are like 9.0, 9.2 on the other ones. So yeah,
just 9.0s, 9.2s, no big deal.
I know. Yeah. So it just happened to be they were fairly decent to begin with. That's what it was. If it wasn't for that, I never would have been able to get as good that was. So
have you ever cracked a book like a 9.6 to bring it to a 9.8?
It's funny you say that. I should have brought that one down. So I had an Ultimate Fallout 4, and so I looked at it and I thought, okay, it's got some damage, and so I worked on it and I sent it in, and it came back a 9.6. I really thought I could get a 9.8 on it. I was so close. I was like, so okay. I was like, okay, it is what it is. 9.6, leave it in there. Well, Bagley and Bendis end up being at CGC, and I'm like, man, okay, do I want to crack this and send it in? And I'm like, I was hemming and hawing for a short period of time, and I'm like, I got to do this. I got to crack it. I'm going to try. And then I had this thought. I'm like, wait a minute, it's a 9.6. Let's say I send it in and let them do the pressing and let them take care of it. And let's see if maybe I might get that bump plus the signatures. And no, it still came back to the 9.6. And I was okay with it. I really didn't think it could get the 9.8. I'd be honest, but I thought if they did, I'd be like, okay, learn something new from them now. So
yeah, I don't really have too much experience with CCS, but I've not heard great things about using them, so I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd give it a shot.
JP's got a 9.6 Ultimate Fallout 4, and I keep telling him, I was like, you should see if it's got a chance to go to a 9.8, because that's a big bump if you can get it.
I don't. It's almost looking at a microscope to see some minute difference. Then that's the thing. Like,
oh, I mean, the thing is like you could literally probably submit it without doing anything, and it could get a 9.8 potentially, right? Like oftentimes a 9.6 and a 9.8, you can't tell. I mean, I've got books that are 9.4s with no grader notes, and I'm like, if there's no grader notes, how's it not a 9.8? Like, come on.
I got to tell you, I've done this so long now, I can kind of actually tell. So that's what I was just about to ask him, JP, if you could see anything, like even after you got it back, you didn't see anything like non-color breaking ticks or like a light crease going on it, or nothing like that of nature that you could see that would make that, be a 9.6?
I can grab it and look at it real quick here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. So while we're there, so Jeff, how long did you do this for your own self before you started doing it for others?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So like I said, I started probably around 2011, where I was starting to really, starting to play with the book, starting to see what I can do. And it wasn't until like 13 or 14 that I said, okay, I'm going to start working on mine. I didn't do the big books yet. I started doing the lower end because I learned enough about every generation. The defect you would find in books, the things you can't fix. Like in the 70s, there were a lot of books that Marvel did, that the bleeding, and of course, when I had these books originally, the bleeding wasn't in it. Like I didn't see it. And then they were just in my bags and boards and left them in my boxes and didn't think anything of it. And then I was like, oh my God. So I went back to my collection and I could see that this stuff was happening. I was like, son of a gun. It was always the reds. The reds were like the big thing, would always bleed into like covers and stuff from the inside. So where was I going with this? I was going to tell you something else. Well, I forget what I was going to tell you.
We were talking about how long you worked on them yourself before you did.
Oh yeah. So then I got to the point where, I started working on them probably like right around 14, 15. And then, I was doing it a lot, and then I'd go into my LCSs and they're like, hey, do you do this on the side? And I said, no, I never thought to do it. But if you want me to, give me a crappy book and I'll show you what I can do. And so I did. And so they liked it. So I just started going to the couple local LCSs, and they were starting to, give me books, and I had to come up with an idea of what I should charge, and then it just got to be where my name kind of got around in my area, not so much outside of Massachusetts, mostly all the local LCSs, and then of course I bump into Mike at my LCS, and it was through him that's when we had that discussion that I could go to another plateau, and he was absolutely right. I feel like I'm on his coattails because honestly, we were just talking about the awards they just had, and I said to him, I can look back to Very Gary and all these other guys, Mint Jim Mintz, and all these other guys that have been on a long time because I used to watch them, and in a year's period of time, I've never seen anybody collect so many subs so quickly the way he has. I mean,
Mike
it's
is
been phenomenal.
a snowball for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
JP, you got the book there? Anything you come to find?
I don't see anything on the front cover. I'm looking for any spine ticks.
That's what I look at. I look for the spine stuff. I look for something that might have been even in the book originally when they made it, like maybe some color that might have just not gone perfectly well on the cover. Sometimes they have to count against that, stuff like that sometimes because it's not perfect,
There might be a minor little tick on the side here and on Iron Man, and then the back there's a white, I don't know if they give a ding on a top left-hand corner or top right-hand corner, a little white ding up there.
Yeah, you can get nailed for that. So 2 color breaking ticks should get you no higher than a 9.4. So when I see people getting 9.6s and they got 3 color breaking ticks, I sit there and go, okay, I don't know what they're doing at CGC, but Overstreet used to think that 2 color breaking ticks is really, you should get no higher than that, a 9.4.
This one kind of just has the 1 and then this little spot back here. So
I would say that's your stuff, and I mean those are workable. You could probably not except for that. Well, I don't know about the white one you said on top. Is it color breaking on the spine?
It doesn't. I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the top.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard on my phone. Yeah.
But I know they don't ding you for a bindery tear if that's what it is.
Right. No, they won't get you for that.
I can't tell if it's color breaking. I see a little white line, I guess, so it may be slight. But I don't know how many you're allowed to have in regard to blemishes to drop to a 9.8.
If you have a 1 color breaking tick, usually 9.6 is probably the highest you can probably get. I think
there are definitely plenty of 9.8s though with some color ticks. Like I've definitely
that's just crazy to me. I just don't know how they accept that. Really,
I tell you what, I had my membership last year. It was almost a year ago. I got the membership. Sent in 5 books, which is what that membership basically paid for. Right, you get $120 was the membership to get in. You get that credit. I sent in 5 books to cover all that, and most of them were books from my childhood. So they were like Hulk 340 and Punisher 1, the green cover, the 87 cover, and they were both equally red, right? One was a blue cover, one's a green cover, equally red, and the Hulk came back at a 9.2, and the Punisher came back an 8.0. So I mean. Again, I know they're different books, but like I equally loved both of them or equally read both of them, you could say. So why one? I would have thought the lighter blue would have showed more marks on that Hulk book, and it came back on 9.2, and I was pretty shocked at that. The huge difference.
So did the handling look the same to you? Because that's what happened. Like I said, on that one book, I had a 7.5 on. I mean, I handled them. I was a kid. I was there to read them. I didn't care about what the condition of the book was when I read it.
I probably read that Wolverine book more than the Punisher book to go into it because I was a huge McFarlane fan, still am, and I read that, read the crap out of that book, and I'm surprised it came back at 9.2. It's a newsstand as well, so I was kind of shocked, but I thought that Punisher would have come back equally as high, and it's just like I didn't press books then. I do a little bit now, nothing like you're doing, but I, like Rohan, have nobody near me that I would trust to do that. And anybody I've talked to at shows are like 3 hours away. And I got into my charm came through the one day, and I was trying to work with a guy to do some pressing, and we had a slight altercation on mailing them back. I wanted to pick them up because I wasn't going to be able to make the next show in a couple months, and mailing them back. And, I guess my idea of what a 9.0 is versus someone else, it's all opinion. And that's the biggest part with CGC is that what I was getting at earlier is that it looks like this and it comes back differently, and it just boggles your mind. There's no, there's no ABC grade. It's someone's determination, and it causes a lot of angst for people.
It does. And honestly, God, if you follow this book, you should be able to come to a consensus. Honestly, I mean, it's about the defects, and you just, especially the modern, you start at 10, you work your way down. I mean, you start, okay, am I at 10? Nope. I got 2 color breaking. Oh, 9-4. Okay. What do I got next? Color breaking crease. Okay. Now I'm going down again. You just keep going down until, it's going to put you where you should be. And the fact that it's questionable, that I know they hired a bunch of new people. So I don't know how their training is. And, it comes down to that. It's experience. I mean, it's taken me a long time to get comfortable to say, okay, and I'm not going to be perfect. I used to, they'd have these contests on the CGC website, and I would enter them, and God, some of those guys on there were really good, and they were pretty spot on at catching things that I wasn't even thinking of, and making it count against the grade. And so I was learning a lot just by entering those contests.
Yeah,
I don't have time for them now, but it was fun.
I mean, a lot of times with pressing of the books and cleaning them, like I don't send them in anymore, but to make them look better, presentable, because I do a lot of hunting like Mike does. So I go to antique stores and you name it, and I find a good book I want. I never find some 9.8. I don't even know what a 9.8 looks like, because I don't have any. I have one 9.8, and the rest of them, something could be a 9.8, but I never think anything's perfect. There's got to be some blemish found somewhere, right? I mean, these books are in the wild. They're not, they're not handled with kid gloves.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for stuff, and I find something I can press out and get those wrinkles on the cover done. Then it looks nicer, and I can trade it up for something else.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing. Actually, it was Alex and actually Mike. To me, it's Alex in the very beginning, because he made you actually enjoy not hating a 3.5 or anything. Very good. Like, there's nothing to hate about it. It's really about the reading and completing a collection. And it kind of went off in a direction that collectors never really thought of. We weren't really going there. I mean, we knew they had value, but once they had a higher value, oh my God, that's when it really went in a different direction. You had too many other people involved now. They were all starting to invest in, especially during COVID. Oh my God, you could tell everybody was getting off the stock market and getting into collecting. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and the stock market was doing good then as well, or I guess when it dipped initially, but it did do well. So like, you could have made money anywhere during that time. And why people went to comics, I don't know. I guess it was more fun. But I mean, some of these 9.8s, like you got someone like, let's say I was going to sell this Ultimate Fallout. Someone might go, oh, there's a color break here and there's one here, so this really is a 9.4. So I'm going to give you 9.4 pricing. Well, it's in here at 9.6, but you're going to tell me it's not. Like, that's how deep in the woods they're getting, and it's kind of like, why are we relying on CGC?
So this is the other thing that's happening now. Yeah, this is the other thing that's happening now is because you got people working on books, especially like color breaking, just ticks. Like, say if you have ticks, they don't even use that word ticks actually in their book. It's just creases, on the spine. You can take steam and a tack iron and you can puff them back out. But, I don't think a lot of guys are putting it in the cold press so that it doesn't revert. You gotta stick it in there for a while, and you gotta let it sit there for a while, because you gotta let it solidify into the new position, because it's going to easily, who knows how many years it sat in the other position.
You mean once you tack it, then you put in the press and do it for 10 minutes and then just leave it overnight when it's turned off? Is that
right?
What
I
you
do 24. Right. That's not cold pressing. So that's just regular heat pressing. So I'll put it in there for 24 hours. They take it back out. If it looks like it's reverted a little bit, I go right back to it again. I start steaming it. I bring it back out again. I put a backer board in there. I go to Rick on Immaculate Comics. He makes some really good stuff to work with that I usually buy from him. So like a chamfered board, you put it in there and it's grooved a certain way, so you can stick it in there and it's not going to create a too tight of a sharp edge to it.
Yeah.
The curve, so you stick it in there. And so when you're doing your tack ironing, it gives you that nice smooth. And there's a certain way of doing it too when you're using a tack iron to make it stay that way. And then if I get it to stay, that's what I do is you can get these plexiglass. And again, talk about advertising again. Here we go.
Pressing board.
Yeah, this is there we go. So anyway, this is from Immaculate Comics. I'm doing a little advertising here. So anyway, I got this. It's all it is plexiglass, and what you do is you basically take here we go. You just take your comic, and then you take your backer board, and I stick it in the center fold, where the spine is, and then what I'll do behind the front cover is I take 3 sheets of copy paper, put it in there like that, and then I do the same thing to the back, and that's when I stick it underneath, the board, like this. I mean, I put it on something flat. You got to have another flat surface that's not going to put any defects on it. So I usually use another backing board behind it, so it's usually nice and flat. There's no defects on it, and then I stick a weight on it. Any kind of weight. It could be working out weights. Like this. It's got a little bit of weight to it, and I'll leave it in there for maybe like 5 days, and by the time it comes out, you'll see. Yeah, this is the cold pressing. That's all it is. There's no temperature, no nothing. But this is after I stick it in the heat press.
That's almost like if you had bunch of books stacked on top of each other over like a year or some. Yeah, they'd eventually flatten out. They might get a roll to them because they're not flat like you're doing it. But that's okay. That makes sense.
You just have to watch it because when kids collect comics, they pack their boxes out so bad, you get what's called a stacking bend. And that's where, everybody's got their books with backing boards and everything. But because you got it so tight, now they're pushing that, after it goes past the spine, it goes down. And then so all the books start to look like that. You get that little hump around the spine. You can see where it goes straight down just because they pack those boxes too tight. And so I have to fix that defect. I have to get I got to get it nice and flat again. But you got to do the whole book. It's not just about the cover. You got to get it in there with the backing board in the centerfold, and then like I said, 3 sheets of paper in the front, in the back, stick it in the press. So it kind of actually, now that we're on the subject, let's see.
Yeah, how many presses do you have?
Yeah, that's what I say. So since we're talking technics, how many presses? Like, what are the tools tools of the trade we got here?
So I got 5 presses altogether. This one over here is for the bigger books. That's my. So this is for like the 11 by 18. So like these are like for magazines and stuff. And you can get that. Oh, I'm crooked. You can get these. You can go on Amazon, any of those places, and you can find some fairly decent ones that are on there.
You have a seal press?
Seal press?
Yeah.
No, I just use regular. I guess what do they mean by seal press? I guess I'm not sure.
There's a show I watch, Bronze and Modern Gods, and they have, I think it's called a seal press, but it's an older analog press, so you don't really set the digital temperature. You kind of have to adjust the dial on it, but they swear by these ones. But I have one like you have there, but they use both, but they said the one's more reliable for them. But I don't know the difference. I'm just going by what you're saying.
I got to tell you, I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it is a little bit better, but I've been able to quirk. You got to get the quirks out of learning how to use each one individually because they all have their own quirks when you're working with them. And I know what each one does. So I find they come around. I get them to what I need them to do.
Yeah, I don't see any. Not many use the seal. They just were. I think it's kind of like if you grew up on a John Deere tractor, you just use John Deere. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I have one similar to the one you got there too. So that's good.
So you got 5 presses. Yeah. What other things are there that involved in the process?
So if I go through the process, like I should say, just like from the beginning, like when I get a book, the first thing I'll do the evaluation, and then I tell you like, here's the defects. This is what I recommend we do. And so a lot of stuff I start with is a lot of dry cleaning. Like I'll do the dry clean, and then I'll take water. I just use distilled water in a paper towel, and I lightly go over the top because you can still get a little bit of surface dirt off using that. And again, I'm not worried about damage. I'm not going to damage it with that unless it's an older book, like earlier than 1967. I find those sizing, the glosses on them are affected real easily by putting water on it. Like you'll see immediately the gloss loss, which is the sizing. You can see it actually starts to come off. Whereas all the modern books, like I can do the 70s and up, and I don't see any issue with me putting them in the aqueous bath. I can get them super glossy again, and I don't have any issues with them. So,
okay, you've used this term. So, talk to me. What is the aqueous bath? Like, what are we doing there?
So, the aqueous bath is this. It's basically all I'm doing is I'm taking. Let's see if I can get it right there. Can't see it.
Is that to get it all moist so you can press it out? Yep.
So what I do is I'll put a book.
It's like a humidifier or something almost.
No, actually, you're going even beyond that. Actually, so what you're doing is, how can I do this so I can show you guys? Let me take it back here again. I think what I'll do is I'll here. So let's say pretend like I've got, but I have to do it as if the cover was off because that's basically what I have to do is I have to take the cover off. So I go through the stages of, I guess we're kind of jumping ahead, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know where I want to start this now, because I was starting with the cleaning. If I do the dry cleaning first, so if I do dry cleaning and I get it all clean, and then I use the water and I'm all done with that. If I feel like it's definitely going to need, the water bath, that's when I have to go and I sit down and I have to take the staples out and I take the cover off. And what you're
Oh,
going to
wow.
do is, yeah. So this is a little bit more in depth. And what you do is, if this is just the cover itself, I would put it on here. But what I do is I use, right here. This is, I had to go to a museum supplier in order to get this. This is what's called Ramee paper. So this is kind of what protects the book when it's in the bath. So what I'll do is, I'll have this, let me get this over here real quick. So I put the Ramee paper down on this screen like this, and then I'll put the cover down. I'll just pretend it's just the cover. And then what I do is I put this Ramee on the other side, and then I put the other screen on top of that. And then I kind of tie it down with these bolts that I have. And they look like this.
Okay,
So
yeah.
So this allows me to sandwich the book in here. And then what I do is I take tap water and I fill this with warm tap water. And then I submerge this in here in this container. So it's going to be filled with water. So usually for about 20 minutes is what I do it for normally. And, I have to kind of, I have to maneuver the book up and down inside the water. Usually I want the water to go through the page. So I kind of do this a lot while it's in there. Not the whole time, just I let it soak for a while. Then I do it towards the end. And then I take that all out. And then what I have to do is I have to go and I have to do it in stages. I have to use a lot of paper towels and I lay it down on a piece of glass. So I'll take something of this size, which I had made up, it's just a big piece of glass. And then I'll take paper towels. I should have had this all near me to make it easy to show you guys.
It's all right.
I'm just nervous here watching this process. Like, I always think water damage, paper, like it's no good.
Yeah, no, the reason you do all this is to get staining out. That's what this is all about. You're not going to get anything. And I can't even tell you or test that you're going to get all the staining out. Usually you don't. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you get really lucky and you do get all the stain out of it. And I'm just amazed that sometimes it will. And what I do is, before I take it completely out, I have to put it in distilled water. I want to make sure I don't add any minerals from the tap water to the book. So I really let it soak in distilled water for a little bit. And then I take it out. And that's when I start doing the paper towel stuff. And I have to change it quite often, just, because I want to get that moisture out of there. And then the next thing you got to do when you got a lot of the moisture out is you got to sandwich it in between another piece of glass. You're going to put another piece of glass on top of this. And then you put a whole bunch of weights. You don't want the book to shrink. So you got to keep a lot of weight on it. So as it's drying, it stays flat and it stays the same size, because you can shrink them, if you.
Is there any fear of like tearing because of it being wet?
So that's one of the things I tell people. I say, look, there's a possibility, and I do this disclaimer right away, and I tell them, I said, if you want to go through this process, I just have to forewarn you that sometimes the paper underneath the staple, where the staple was originally, sometimes that paper there is very delicate because of, it's wear and tear over time. And I say to them, how, if you want to do this book, I'm just telling you, this is a possibility. This could become detached because it, you get a tear in it now. But I say for the most part, I think I've done quite a few of them now. I probably have had maybe, I've had maybe 2 overall, and I did forewarn them that's a possibility, and they were okay because the book's condition was so bad to begin with. They were willing to take a chance on it, and that's the only thing that you can sometimes have. But for the most part, I haven't had too many things happen. It's actually been and again, I practiced a lot and I learned a lot. That I could do this because I worked with paper back in the day, and I saw that this could withstand. It took me a while to learn that if I do it before 1968, it's not a good thing. It's like I learned, I couldn't do it at that age. Again, on a bad book, I learned all that. So yeah, that's kind of so again, that's where my comic spa kind of comes from. It's a book in a bath. That's where that all kind of comes from.
So Jeff, when you work on a big book, do you get nervous at all?
I think it has to be one of the bigger books. I think it'd have to be some of those DC books. I think if or maybe an AF-15, maybe, because I haven't had.
Have you done these books before? Have they come through?
I never had an AF. I've had someone inquire about it, but the book, I even had a Spider-Man #1, but I had to be honest with him. I really couldn't bring enough to the book to tell him, look, for me to do all this stuff on this book, you're going to get anything out of it. The book was so bad that it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't even worth working on it. It was so bad. Because he heard how I could work magic. I said, oh yeah, I can do some stuff, but I can't bring this one back. This one needed CPR a long time ago, So yeah.
So what is the here's like, what are some of the biggest books you've done?
So let's see. I've done a few Hulk 181s now. I've done Avengers 1. Actually, almost all the Avengers I've done, all the 4, 8. And then I've done an Iron Man 1. I've done a couple. Again, it can't go before. So it has to be those books that are before, especially aqueous bath stuff. But just dry cleaning and pressing. Yeah, I've gone some early books, Tales to Astonish, things like that. But no AF-15s, no like early Supermans, anything like that. Although Mike just got one, he wants me to work on it. So
yeah. And you're probably working on his Hulk 181, I assume.
I already did. Actually, it's funny. Right before I went on vacation, I was doing 2 Hulk 181s at the same time, and someone said to me, "Did you ever get this mixed up?" I'm like, "Not on Hulk 181s. I'm not gonna." I'm like, I have to be careful about that, So yeah, no, that's never happened. But yeah, I've done Ghost Riders. Marvel Spotlight on #5. I've done that one. So
yeah,
things of that.
When you talk about Mike saying that you took it to another plateau, is this your main business? Is this a side business? Like,
it's, I'm getting at that age where, I wanted to do this as a hobby. Again, I wasn't looking to hire people. I enjoy kind of doing this. And if people are patient, it's more like a hobby for me. And so I just told him and Brandon from Mon Comics, I said, yeah, I think I'm ready. I think I'm going to start selling my stuff. I do have a bunch of good books, and I think I'm ready to kind of give them up, because actually my passion's this now. Actually, I love this. It's like it's not so much about having the books anymore. So yeah, I never thought I'd hear myself say that. Yeah, I probably only keep a couple books. I think the
Mike
books I keep.
And Mon?
What's that?
I was saying, who gets the dibs on the books then? Is it Mike and Mon to get the dibs on when you sell that collection?
No, it's kind of funny. Actually, Brandon brought it up. He said he thought maybe next year they could do something for me where I forget what they call that, where you put the books behind you and you put ABC, and I forget.
Claim sale.
Claim sale. That's what Brandon was saying. He goes, "Oh, we should do a claim sale for you." And I said, "Oh, is it a good thing to do?" He goes, "Oh yeah." He says it's way better than, maybe going to some because I've looked at different websites. Was that Comic Collectibles something or other? I forget what that one. That was
there's all kinds of consignment sites, but they're all gonna take their fee. Whereas like if you got a following, which both Brandon and Mike do, you could just be like, hey, claim sale, do it on their channel, and have their audience there, and yeah, I'm sure you'd do great.
Yeah, so I guess at some point I will be doing that. Yeah, I don't know when, but hopefully we'll see at some point here. So
wait, so is this now your main job then, or is it still a side job?
No, I still do this as a side job. I used to have another business where I did personal budgeting. So I worked with people with their finances. So I helped them, getting on the right financial track. But I found that all the information I was giving them, even though they were paying me, they weren't doing it. So I wasn't getting much. I wasn't getting much out of that. I was thinking, okay, if you're not going to listen to me, and I see them sitting in restaurants eating food, I told them they got to start cutting back on eating out. Here they're out there just shoving food in their face. And I'm like, okay.
Which, I get that. Like I owned a gym for a decade, and I did a lot of nutrition counseling kind of stuff. And it's like, you tell them, they don't do it.
Yeah, that's it. You're sitting there going, am I really getting anything out of this? It's like I really wanted to help people, and I'm not really feeling that, So, so that was kind of the first venture. And I did pretty good in that too. But this one is definitely my passion. I definitely like doing this. It's just, it takes time to work on them, So
what are we talking about? Or go ahead, JB.
I was just saying, it's just not it isn't like unwrapping something. It takes effort to get the book nicer. Like, when I first started doing the pressing, and I put a book in there, and I was like, I got to be there in 8 hours to open it up and see how it looks, right? And then you start doing them. Oh, I forgot I left that one in there for 14 hours. I got to go get that out of the press. And it, it was the excitement at first, but it's not a quick process, right? It's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it does in some cases, but it's you know, you're working on them. That's building a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, sometimes it takes definitely the ones that have pretty damaged pretty good. It takes more than one pressing. Like you're gonna have to, and I found the trick is definitely using humidity. I mean steam. Like if you put right before you stick it in the press, you use your steamer on the inside of the front cover, outside of front cover, and then you flip it over, do the same thing. Give it a couple minutes, and then you don't want to shove it in there right away. You want that moisture to release a little bit, and then you stick it in. And I get really good results doing that using.
See, I made a humidity chamber. I have like 4 little PVC
You can do that too.
pipes, and I lay it down there, and I even put a bag over top of the, over the top of the container I'm using. Then I put the lid on it and seal it. And I don't know if the humidity is not staying there or not, but I don't notice the books they don't feel wet, but I don't think it's doing anything. I don't know if my humidity chamber is not bright or not, but I've had no luck with that. I'd rather use a steamer than the humidity chamber because it sits in there for hours.
Yeah,
right?
I've had better luck with a steamer. I mean, especially like when I'm done with all this stuff. Like once I'm done dry cleaning and I've got all the other stuff done, I've already worked on. You can't really work on the ticks. Is once you put the steamer on it, if you had a tick in it, it's going to come back again. Because you're kind of relaxing that paper again. So if you've got a book that's got a lot of ticks, you really can't use the steam so much. Those are the tricks you got to learn not to do certain things because otherwise you're just backtracking all over again. So if I have a book that doesn't have a lot of ticks and I'm just trying to get the creases out of that cover, I'll put I'll have my 3 sheets of paper underneath on the front cover, but then I'll put like this backing board on top of that for right now as I'm steaming it because I don't want it to get the paper underneath wet that's going to be going in the press. Once I do the front and back, and then I take that out and then I stick it in the press. And then after usually 24 hours, it definitely looks a lot better. And I find that the only books you got to watch out for is some modern books. The pages will stick. They don't do as well with the heat. So you have to almost put a copy paper almost in between all the different pages because
you'll hear them rip.
Oh yeah,
not rip. They don't rip, but they just kind of.
Yeah, that sticking sound. Yeah.
What I do is bend the book a little bit, and you'll hear it. You just hear that sound like, oh, they're sticking to all this. They're sticking to every sheet that's in there. So you kind of have to watch with them. And then there's certain books like if it's got it raised, on the cover, it's something raised. You can't really press those because you're just.
No, every book from the 90s has that raise on them. You can't.
Yeah, the embossed. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna. It's either 9/8 or not, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Jeff, talk to us a little bit about the kind of flow here. Like, are books coming in daily? How long a day do you spend, would you say, doing this stuff? Like, and how many books are you doing in a day? Like, kind of talk to us about that kind of thing.
Yeah, my goal is, I've got the 5 presses. I want to fill the 5 presses if I can. Sometimes I'm working on a book and it may take me longer because there's just so much to do on it. I mean, it could be the soiling could be so heavy that, it's just going to take me a long time and I'm just not going to get as many books in. And then, the process through the week is, I may have a book that needs to have 3 pressings. So this one's taking a lot longer than a book I may have had in another press. And so now I can go to another book and put that in this press. And so I'd love to say that I could get 5 in and 5 out and, be able to move on. But unfortunately, it kind of doesn't work like that. You got to work with whatever that book's giving you. And if it takes a couple more days, you can't get upset. You just got to keep working on it until it gives up the fight. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they are what they are and I can't do anything more. Like I just did a Daredevil #2 and because the book, and this is like the worst books to work on are the brittle books. That's why you got to watch it like with the Golden Age. Brittle's like the worst. Brittle's like you can't put a lot of moisture in them. You can't put too much heat on them. And so this Daredevil had a little bit of a crease that went across the book a certain way. And then on the back side, you can see it, the crease was even heavier. So someone had folded it a certain way or it just got folded at one time back when it was not as brittle. So it stayed like that for generations. So I tell you, I worked my butt off on that one, trying to get that thing. And I did pretty good. I got it to the point where it's not flat, but it's about as good as it's going to get. Cause I left it in the press for almost 5 days straight after being in the heat press for a short period of time. And they're kind of the toughest ones to work with, the brittle books.
Yeah. But are books showing up daily?
No, I tell people because I don't want the liability of having so many books here. I tell them, I said, look, when I'm getting closer to you, I'll have you send your books. And then I'll, that way they're in your hands, they're safe. Now it's just the transportation from one location to the other. And then I let them know as soon as I get them what the condition was, like if the box was damaged or any. That's why I tell them, definitely have it insured. I normally use the U.S. Postal, but God, everything's been late so long lately. It got me kind of worried. I sent a couple back recently that, it took them like over a week to get their book back, and I was kind of worried about it there. Even though we had the insurance and everything on it, I did a lot of work on it. I wanted to get back to them.
Right. Yeah. That's the one part about, if you don't have anyone local, it's good. People, you can ship stuff out, and that's how we sell on eBay and how we sell through Facebook. But it's just, when it's a book you want to keep, and I want to see the person I give it to and pick it back up from them, and not worry about the U.S. I've seen U.S. Postal people just throw it in throw these boxes in the cart next to them, and I'm like,
yeah, yeah, the Gemini is a great box. I got to tell you, it takes a beating, and that's why, like, even when I ship mine out, I use the Gemini, but then I put it in the U.S. Postal,
the priority mail box.
Priority mail, yeah, and I just put bubble wrap in it, and I know that's what they're doing to them, so they've just got to withstand that kind of. And I have sent some books back, some big books like the Hulk 181s through the mail, along with the other books, that I was doing with that, not just the Hulk 181. And they got them, they made it, and not too much damage, but you'll see, you will get some that have dents on it. But I tell them, if you're going to send it through just with a Gemini, just be leery. You might, they might still get damaged, but they made that Gemini really well, actually. To be honest with you, I've seen take some damage pretty good.
I tell you, I got a book sent to me. It was a CGC book. Somebody used a Little Caesars pizza box.
Yeah, I know. I have had stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
And then I have people, like somebody I bought long shot #1, and the guy threw it in the box, then threw the paper wrapping in, and then shipped it out. I was like, and then I get mad at people that use masking tape or use that packing tape to seal them to the cardboard. You use the blue painter's tape.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I always use. I always use blue on the inside, and then obviously the packing tape on the outside is usually what is usually how I do it. Yeah, I hate tape. Tape has always been my nemesis. I always tell people, even on your boarding and bagging, I see so many people use tape. I'm like, oh my god, it's like, because I've seen so many nice books get damaged. I had a friend of mine that had a really nice book, and I had it, and I gave it to him. It was so minty mint, and he didn't have that book a week, and he got a tape pull on it. I'm like, I wanted to cry when I saw it.
So what do you use the blue painter's tape on the back too?
Yeah,
Back. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll use
I'd say I always get nervous, like, even if it's not even an expensive book, but like if they use the masking tape on the back and you you pull the book, I was like, you got to use that blue tape.
If you don't pack your boxes really heavy, you can almost fold it in on the backside, if you're not going to pack it tight. Because I've seen boxes, and in my box was the same way I actually did it with my books. I never use tape. I always tuck. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'd go to pull the book out. I'm like, what are these indentation marks on my comics now? And I realized, I was packing them too tight in the that when I was flipping it in the back behind the backing board, that made an impression on the book behind it. So I was like, So yeah,
it's an art to keep these things nice, and they're meant to be read, and then now it's artwork to display, and there's a way to thankfully there's an art what you're doing to make it look so nice. So
and so if you want, I don't know how you do yours, but like when I go to do my pressing, and I'll give you an idea what I do. Usually I was just explaining to you, I take the book, and I'll go ahead and make the sandwich that I make. Not that one. Yeah, so I'll take like 3 sheets, and I put it behind the back page.
Now, how often do you change that paper, though? Is it 3 sheets, 3 new sheets every time?
No, you don't have to do it every time, because you don't get that much on it. It really, you can probably use it like, I've used it up to 5 times, and really I probably could have kept going, but I was just trying to be safe and not use it more than that, because I find another use for the paper. I always find another use for everything I do. Like I use my paper towels over and over. That way I'm not buying a ton of paper towels, and you can kind of do that. It doesn't really harm anything, really. And then on the centerfold, I put the backing board, and then in the front, I put 3 more, so it kind of looks like this. I have it, I have 3 in the back, 3 in the front, and then I have the backing board in the center, and then in the press, I do 165 for temp. I don't know what you're doing on yours. I do it for 10 minutes.
I do 185 for 20 minutes.
Oh, so you do a lot longer. Yeah, I find online, I've seen everybody doing this over time. Some of the biggest guys I see out there pressing, they came to I don't know, for whatever reason, 165 seems to be a decent temp, and then for 10 minutes is really kind of, you don't. Golden Age you can't do that with. Golden Age you gotta come off the temp. You can't go as high because usually they're just old and they just can't withstand all that as much temperature. I mean, other guys would probably argue with me on that one, but I don't want to bring any more damage to an old book like that. It's like I just don't think it's for the.
Well,
So then on once I heat, because I've got a plate. I don't know about you, but I've got a heating on the inside of mine. So I've got another plate on the bottom here. Oh, you can't even see that. I'm sorry.
There's a pad on mine.
So I got a pad, and on top of the pad, I have this heating plate. Well, it's going to get heated once I put. So what I do is when I'm presetting this, I'll put that in there, take it, bring it down, and oh yeah, I turned that one off. I'm preheating that plate is what I'm doing. So it's going to get just as hot as the top that comes in the top of this. So they'll both be 165. Now this one will maintain the temperature on top, obviously longer than the one on the bottom, but at least I'm doing two sides at the same time. You'll find it does work. It works really well, actually.
You don't have to flip the book and do it again for the.
Exactly, because that's what is time consuming. You want to find ways to make it. So then what I do is once I get this hot, I still like to protect my book. I take a backing board, this is a magazine size. I put that on there, and then I have release paper because this is going to touch the comic.
So the parchment paper, right?
Yeah, that's release paper. Yep. And then so I've got those two things that make this not come in contact, with the bottom. So then I put that in there next, and then I do the same thing at the top. So you do release paper, and then the backing board, and then I go another step because that's how much I want to protect. I get Teflon. Anytime you order a t-shirt press, they almost give you a Teflon sheet every single time. I don't know if you got one with your press, but. Yeah, I got one. So I stick that on top, and then I just take it, and then crank it down. And like I said, 165 for 600 seconds, and then I turn it off, and it sits there for 24 hours. And you
sits
think
there under the pressure you're talking about, right?
Under that pressure, you have to keep it under pressure the whole time. Yeah, you're not releasing any of that pressure. It stays there the whole time. And then the next day, you may find, oh my God, it still needs it again, and I'll do it again. I've had books go 3 times sometimes to get out all those creases. Because I am trying to bring it to the highest level I can get. And when I sooner or later I find out it's not going to go any farther. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get. And the heat's not going to damage it too much. I mean, I've seen paper. It's just the Golden Age. You got to watch it, especially or brittle books. You can't put a lot of heat on them.
I have a X-Men once. Was it 266, the Gambit one, and somebody must have written on a piece of paper with the comic underneath it. So there's kind of like the indentation of the pencil. Yeah. And I probably pressed that book, I don't know how many times, and I can't get that out. And someone was we interviewed, they said to take that steel ball and try to roll the steel ball over top of it or underneath it or something like that.
Yeah. I've got one of those upstairs. I use that as kind of like a last resort, because you got to kind of watch it. Like I've seen one like Rick from Immaculate Comics has a kind of a neat one. He's got a way for you to hold onto a ball. He's got this little thing that holds onto it. So it makes it a little bit easier to put pressure on it. And then you can kind of see a little bit clearer where you're putting the pressure because you want to put it where the defect is. But I find the biggest helper for me is the tack iron. The tack iron is really the biggest thing. And you can get that in any like Joanne Fabrics or any type of fabric store.
That's the little one, right?
Yeah, you get a little head on it. And so what you do is you use steam and you steam the page, front and back, wherever the area you're working on. And so wherever you have that impression, obviously if the impression is going into the cover, you have to flip the page over, because that's the side you use the tack iron on because you want to push it back down again. And all you do is you just use a few strokes and you'll start to see it improve. And then I steam it again and I do it again, a few strokes, and sooner or later you'll get it to where it's almost flat again. But if it's really giving you a hard time, that's when I take the ball bearing out. I use my palm, and I've got a couple of sheets that I use to put underneath, so that it's not going to damage the other surface, other than working on the actual cover. You got to watch, you got to do it, look at it. You can't just keep you can't, you're gonna might end up with some other problems after.
Right, that's what I was worried about, is holding the book in one hand, like it's on the cover, so you got the cover laying flat and you're holding the book almost like a alligator mouth opening or whatnot, and I'm holding it and I'm going to be doing this, and then if I pull too hard or something,
Yep. So. Yeah, that's the trick. You just got to be careful, and you just do it real slow, and you got to keep checking. It seems tedious, but you don't want to damage it. You got to make sure you're not you want to improve it, not make it worse. So
Right.
that's the reason I really watch it with the ball bearing. And I'll even use a little steam and then use the ball bearing, but you got to be careful because now that it's really relaxed, now if you go beyond the area of where you're working, you can actually damage the book, beyond that. So you just got to be careful when you're doing it.
And that's the thing, is like, you don't know what, how the book looks and these little defects on the, we look for spine ticks, we look for, creases, but those type of things that, if the book's going to be an 8.0 and is it really going to bump you up that much higher to take the risk in some cases, unless it's some, going from a 9.0 to a 9.8, that's going to be 10x in value, right? That's about.
I can't tell you how many shows I've gone to looking for encapsulated books like an 8.0 or an 8.5 and look to see if I can see the defects on them. And if they're not color breaking and they're not color ticks or creases, and I see only soiling, dirt and just waviness and it's handling, I buy it because those are the ones I know I can make them better. You just can't make anything that's color breaking, you can't improve. So you just kind of stay away from that stuff.
I was actually going to ask you this question because I was at a show once and there was these two guys there, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were taking every 9.6 that they found, didn't care what the book was, and they would both take a look at it. And if they'd say, can this be improved to a 9.8? If they both said yes, they just bought it.
Yep.
And obviously the whole intent was that they'd crack, work, resubmit, and then sell as a 9. Because I mean, a 9.6 to a 9.8 is oftentimes a 3x multiplier.
It's a huge jump. It's amazing what from a 9.8 or 9.6 to a 9.8 is. I only had a backfire one time. I went to the Big Apple Con with a buddy of mine, and we went down there, and I went in that premise. I was there to look for, the 9.6s, even like 8.0s to see if I could bring them up. But it's not going to be anywhere near as good as, like you just said, a 9.6 to a 9.8. So I saw Young Avengers book when it was hot. And so this was an encapsulated one, and I saw it, and I'm like, I said, it was a 9.6. I thought, boy, can I get this higher? But you know what? The lighting in there, I didn't see a couple defects that was in there, even though I was looking at it really closely, and I thought, I can improve this. And then I got it out of the casing, and I looked at it, I'm like, ugh. I'm like, did I mess up with this one? I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had never done it because I couldn't see all the defects. It was just kind of tough. I tried my best to see if I could get it higher, but believe me, I never sent it back in because I kind of knew.
Yeah, I wouldn't get higher.
No way I could get it any higher. I said, I'll leave it as is and I'll sell it, in my collection when the day comes. So I see a lot of people now. A lot of people are coming to me. They're not looking to get them encapsulated. They're doing what you did. They're looking just to, just make them better.
Yeah, just to display better, or if you find one in the wild that you don't really want and you want to flip it, flip's a negative word in some cases, but more along the lines of, if you're a Spider-Man fan, but you found a, Blue Beetle book that is hot, you can flip it for that Spider-Man book. So if you can make it look nice, improve it so that when you're going to a show and, you can get a nice trade on it.
Well, not only that, I also think too, like personally, like I would say like, what I've kind of come to the understanding is that the book has to have at least, I feel like, $400 in value before it's worth grading. And there are a lot of great books that are under $400 in value and that I would want.
Right.
And so it's like, I would only clean and press them, and then I would want to put them in like a Mylar because Mylar makes them look great. And it's like, it's not worth me the cost to grade them, but like, would I want them to look better? Of course.
Yep. I got some keys that I've hemmed and hawed. I've got the first Spider-Woman, and I sit there and look at it, and I'm going, unless I can get the higher grade, because I've seen the values of the 9.4s, 9.6s, as opposed to 9.8s, and I'm like, even though it's her first appearance, it's still, I don't have that 9.8. I've only got like maybe a 9.2, and I'm like, and then I look at what its value is, and I'm like, no, she's just not drawing. It's not like Spider-Man's or the bigger books that everybody, I mean, all you gotta do is buy a Spider-Man book, for God's sakes. And every one of those books is like screaming value. Like, I mean, I get those the most. I get X-Men, Spider-Man. Those are the kind of books that people send me the most. I've had, like I said, the Hulk 181s. Let's see, where's the one I was just looking at today? I like seeing, like, especially when they come through, because I always liked him, like Dave Stevens. Like,
yeah.
I don't get a whole lot of these, and these are cool to me. I'm like, oh, no, that's kind of cool. I don't mind working on those. I'm a big Man Thing like Brandon, so I love when people send me those. You know, you got older Batman. And then here's another. Let me take his name off of it. Another Dave Stevens. I mean, these are cool books. I
Oh,
mean,
that's a book JP wants right there.
is it?
I have
Is that
what's
not
it
the one you
called?
just showed us yesterday, JP?
No, I don't think so. I have what is it called? Chevelle Noir is the one I have. Dave Stevens Chevelle Noir #1.
Oh,
cover.
okay.
So I have a lot of Adam Hughes, and Dave Stevens. Another one I like. Hughes, Stevens, and J. Scott Campbell.
Yeah, I'm a lot like you. I not so much on the Campbell, but I do like Hughes. I just love. I just did a bunch of Zatannas. I sent those in.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping they'd get a little bit better grades. I mean, they were like 9.4 and 9.2s. I was trying to get to like the 9.6, 9.8s. One of them I think made it. I forget which one I did that made it. But you know, I also like Alex Ross. I worked on this one, so this one paid off.
Nice.
That's a fabulous cover. He doesn't get as much love. Like if you look at old, and that's what
Right.
I used to collect baseball cards and football cards, and the rookie card was always the most valuable, just like the first appearance. But when it
Right.
comes to artists, their first drawing, their first published work isn't always the most expensive.
No,
Yep.
you think it's a cool key for sure, but then like they're not. Like Todd McFarlane's first work in Marvel is not worth that much money. Jim
No.
Lee's first work on X-Men is not worth that much money.
But
Um,
Jim Lee's first work, that Santa Samurai, is worth some money, and McFarlane, I don't think his is worth much. And Alex Ross, I mean, sometimes you can buy almost that whole run of Avengers, or he did all those covers for almost every character, and people like give those away almost.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, for what he does, it's just his book should be through the roof. It's the most amazing art. Even George Perez, his first couple books, it was like for the longest time, there's no value. I'm like, God, George did some of the best books out there, and I thought he gets no love. I mean, everybody loves his art, but I mean, what I mean by love is value. It's like I feel like they should be worth a lot more than what
it doesn't, and that's the thing. Like Perez, Ron Lim.
yeah, Ron Lim gets no love.
He gets no love. Buscema. Who else from that? Neil Adams. None of them.
Neil Adams got some value because he's got some older ones that he's done that have value.
He does, but I'm saying like the Silver Surfer 4 gets a lot for Buscema, but those guys all drew similar in regard to that their proportions were all correct, except for Jack Kirby. I'm not a Kirby fan because his stuff.
This is where JP and I bump heads on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do like Kirby a little bit, but that's fine. Everybody has their passions. Mine, you just said mine. My all-time favorite artist, it's so hard. They're all really good artists. But when I grew up, it was John Buscema. I loved his art so much. I actually got to speak to him before he died, and on his desk he had these. I don't know if you can see these. I'm not very good with whole. I don't know if you can see these. He had these sketches here. So he did these and he mailed them to me, and he signed them. And I was just like, to me, it was the coolest thing. That was my love for Conan was because of him. He just had the most amazing art to me. He just did Conan like no other.
They did, and everybody, people looked normal. And then now you got McFarlane has a great way of drawing, in my opinion, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're anatomically correct, right?
Right.
Whereas Rob Liefeld is way outside the box, and he has his style. But Buscema and those guys all had similar style, but you could tell one from the other. But they looked very, they looked like real people, I guess you could say. Now becoming Alex Ross has got that style again with the painted covers that they looked, as somebody would look if you saw them in person,
Yeah.
Like,
and it's hard not to like like the old standbys. I mean, matter of fact, Brandon just gave me this one, this print, which was so nice of him. Let me get this out of here. It's a Frank Frazetta.
Oh,
wow, that's cool.
He got this, not the estate. I guess it was a museum, and they were selling these. And so he bought. Some guy he bought these from, he was the guy that had them, and he was selling them at a show, I guess somewhere near Brandon. And so Brandon bought. And so he actually sent me that. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I mean, you could tell it had to have been different and unique because it's the paper that they did it on. It's like it's almost like a canvas. I've not, especially at that time when they did this, you know, there's not too many people that did this back then, you know.
Mm-mm.
On this paper.
Yeah, those originals of those Frazetta paintings go for like millions.
Oh, they're so, I can't imagine. There was a point at which when I was in comics that I started to want to actually start going after the original prints. Like I wanted to get the original, you know, pages that they made the comics with, like especially with John stuff. And I started going back. I'm like, oh, let's see if I can get Avengers 60 or 61 and I tried to see if I could find covers. Well, by that time, some guy was just hogging them all. Like he was buying them up every time they would come up for sale, and they just went through the roof.
And now they're thousands. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't touch them. I mean, you're another level, and you can only. I felt like that's.
It's like Mike sent us an article just the other day to JP and I, and it was the guy that bought the original art for the cover of Giant Size X-Men #1, and he bought it at some con for like $50. And now that's
20 years ago or something, right?
Yeah, a couple $100,000 easy, if not breaking 7 figures.
God, you know, I've never had that kind of luck. Other than, you know, getting those Tales to Astonish in some box that some guy had up in his first floor, that's the only thing I felt like I ever got a really good deal. I mean, the guy had him in there. He the whole box, he only wanted $5. I'm telling you, and those books they were in such great condition. That's the only thing I could say that I ever got. I'm not like Mike. It seems like every time he goes out, he puts his hard work in. He definitely puts in. He's in the right area to be doing all this in, you know, for sure.
Yeah. The other area I feel like I hear so much about in this kind of thing is like just the Midwest. Like we've interviewed a few people that are out in the Midwest area, and they're just like, you know, like we had Drew from Como Comics, and he's just like, collections are just falling out of the sky in the Midwest right now. And it's just like, but it's like, again, like we're hitting that time again, not to be morose, but a lot of these guys that were these hardcore collectors in the 60s and 70s are now, you know, passing away, and you know, their kids or their wives, they don't want anything to do with these collections.
They don't. Yeah. And I'm right there. I'm on the cusp, you know, I'm in my 60s. So that's why I'm sitting here thinking, you know, it's like, no, I loved them. I enjoyed them. And now that I have a new passion, that's the only reason why I'm thinking about doing it now, because, you know, I've gone through all that, you know, and so I wanted to go to somebody else that's going to enjoy them. And I don't want it to end up like these other ones, you know?
Yeah. Are your kids into this at all, Jeff?
I tried.
Yeah.
My daughter was into it a little bit, but you know, they grew up, you know, everything was video games. And so they did the Pops, you know, they loved Pops. They did, my son got those Star Wars little trade paperback books. He was into those.
Yeah.
My kids were into Legos. They were my firstborn was.
I love Legos.
So we had Legos, and I wish, again, like in my own self, keeping my toys. I didn't really pay. I kept some of them, but I should have kept more of them. But I mean, with 4 kids making a mess, like cleaning up was just
yeah. And my son had a lot too, but I got to tell you, you got to make sure all those pieces are in there if you go to sell them. And I found like some of them didn't have all the pieces, and I'm like, well, it's like, what are you going to do now? They're not going to have as much value now. You know?
Yeah, it's hard to keep all that stuff. And that's why I see a lot of things like what Mike finds, or I watch Froggy Flips, who's on YouTube as well.
I watch him a lot too. I do.
He's fun to watch, but like even little toys like Godzilla, the fist that used to shoot out, that's worth almost as much as Godzilla himself, because people lost that. Right?
Yep.
So those Lego pieces that you're talking about, they got lost or whatnot, they become almost more valuable than the set, because you need that for the completionist.
I mean, I collected some toys when I was a kid. I had, like I said, I had the action figures for the superheroes. Like I had the Hulk, I had the Joker, there's only so many that came out in the early 70s. And, I abused the hell out of them. You know, it's like, you know, because I played with them so much. So they didn't really retain, I don't even know whatever happened to it. The only ones I kept that actually did have value was the original Star Wars toys that came out. I had a bunch of those, and I kept all the figurines. And I didn't have them all, but when the time came to sell them, I did do pretty well. Yeah.
Nice.
When did you sell those?
When did I sell them? I sold that probably back in 2012, somewhere right around there. 2011, I think is when I sold them. I can't even remember what I sold them for, but I know at that time I think I did pretty good. I mean, I know right now they're even crazier now.
Right, it's hard to even time that, but I just there's been some ebbs and flows with Star Wars, and you probably caught it right that ebb back then. and
Yep.
then now it kind of died off, and then now it got picked up with 2020, COVID. So it's tough to judge it, and like what you're saying is the new passion is the comics ball, right?
Yep.
And I see guys at shows, and I talked to Rohan about this, that there's these old curmudgeons. I'm not talking about you here, so don't take it that way.
I'm close to it.
But these guys are getting rid of books and they're not happy about it. Like you,
Yeah, the
I
ones that
can
are just
tell-
like grumpy, like no, you
Right,
cannot
you're
come
like-
back to the wall.
Yeah, no, I like you want to trade it. Like, no, we don't. I'm just here to sell. But like you're like, I want to give them to someone who is going to enjoy them and
Yep.
whatnot. So it's a different point of it. But you do, life changes, right? So you're going to move in from one passion to the other. And
Right.
I just wonder one day when our Rohan and I will be ready to
Curmudgeons.
know that. Curmudgeons are just getting into something else. Like it might be cars.
Yeah.
You sell all your comic books to buy a car.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna feel when that passion is not there. Because I watch Mike, and I'm like, oh my god, I remember when I was like that. I mean, I love still saying I have my books, but I feel like it's it's gotten to the end now, and it's just now it's time.
Yeah.
For, it's time to move on to something else, and this
Totally.
was my something else. It's like, and I'm happy. I'm in a good place. If I wasn't in a good place, I'd still be holding on to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No, I
as
think
much
it's
as
great.
just the fact that there's value in these books whenever you're into collecting them, and then there's a value in them when you want to move on from them because you found something else to fill that time, and that's what
Exactly.
that's
Yep.
what they are now to us, and that's what they were to you, and then now this new passion, which I think is cool, because I got into the collecting part of it. Now I find more fun out of going and hunting for comics as opposed to, just like almost every day I want to find one and sell one on eBay because I like that, that
Yeah,
thrill
and
of
that's-
that part of it.
Right.
The
that's
thrill of
cool-
the score.
Yeah, and that's a niche by itself too. So that's within the comic. That's what I love about comics. There's like so many venues that we all shouldn't be bitching about all the other ones. It's like it's just neat that there's so many of them out there. And we didn't have all that when we were kids. It was all about reading the
No.
book. And now there's so much attention to everything. Now it's like
Yeah.
it's a different world for everybody now compared to what it was when we were kids. I mean, to me, the biggest thing in the world was just seeing all these characters on the main screen.
Oh.
I never thought in my lifetime I'd ever seen a Thor or
I mean, you
Yeah.
saw you saw
Vision.
Superman, right? And in the
Yeah.
70s, and that was like well
It's incredible.
done. Then it was incredible then. Then I remember 2000 whenever Spider-Man came out and X-Men, and I didn't think. And then Spawn. There was a couple in the 90s that kind of Blade that didn't really cut the mustard like 2000s, early 2000s Spider-Man and X-Men. And so you thought this is about as good as it's going to get. And then Avengers and Endgame came out, and you went, "Wow,
yeah.
they
Yeah.
did it right."
Yeah, I feel like I was lucky though. I feel like growing up in the 70s, I had everything. I had the best music to me. I feel like we had the best music. I had the best comic stories. Everything that came on that
Yeah.
shelf was so hot. I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, I was trying to get every book I could off that comic thing because they were all fairly, except for maybe like a Doctor Strange or maybe a Daredevil, because there were some stories there that weren't as good. But most of even the DCs. I mean, I grabbed the DCs, and the DCs were pretty decent at that time. So I feel like I'm pretty lucky, at that time. But although I listened to you guys like about the 90s and the early 80s and the late 80s, having the trading cards, we never had that. I mean, I guess it maybe because of gaming. Is that where the trading card idea came in when having all the?
I
They
think
had,
because
I mean,
baseball cards were so hot.
they
then,
had
too.
cards. They just weren't very well circulated. And yeah, it may be like the rise of the baseball card world that they came. But yeah, they obviously when the 90s hit, that's when those boomed, and they're still making them now.
That's where Mike told me he got the passion for getting first appearances because
Yep. Yeah, all of us that are kind of those 90s kids, our like best introduction to Marvel were those cards.
Yeah.
Because you could turn them over and you'd read the back and they'd give you the history without
And
having to go back to the
power
Silver
levels.
Age and
Yeah.
the power levels. It was something tangible. Like it was really cool.
yeah, because you really did want to know. We were lucky. There was a point where Marvel came out with a book. God, I can't even remember when it was that told you who was the most powerful.
Yeah. Yep. We had someone brought that up on our show. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the coolest
so-
thing because you're like, oh my God, Hulk is a little stronger than Thor. Come on.
Yeah.
'Cause I was a big Thor. I liked Hulk too, but to me, it was a Thor. It was that Kane hitting the ground. That's what got me started.
Yeah.
And but then you saw it on paper. You're like, oh well, it's not so great anymore because you wanted him to be the strongest, at the time. And I had a thing for the Thing too. I thought Thing was such a
Dude,
cool
yes!
character.
He only got 6. He wasn't
Yeah.
as strong as
He
Hulk.
wasn't, but
Hulk
like
was 7.
I think part of the reason why I love the Thing is because he's so underappreciated when you talk about those guys up at that level. Like no one ever
Yep.
talks about the Thing. And I think the Thing versus the Hulk is the best historical 1v1 in all
Yeah.
of comics. Like
Yep.
their battles are so epic.
Yeah, and to me, where you had to feel for the Thing was, you knew he didn't have the exact same power, but boy, he gave it his all. Like every fight he was in, like he'd bust himself up, and that you feel like you're that kind of guy. You're not the guy that was the strongest. You're always that guy trying to just make sure that other guy remembers you in a fight. That's the thing.
Yeah, kind of like Captain America was in this first movie. He had the heart to push through all that stuff, which made him the winner he was. So
yeah, I'll tell you that Winter Soldier, all those I did like those movies. I thought they were
Winter Soldier and Civil War, some of my favorites.
Yeah, I had Guardians of the Galaxy. To me, was like it was one of the top movies, and then I had Civil War, one of the captain. I guess no, Winter Soldier. I think Winter Soldier was the one I think I liked. And then Endgame was just epic. I just thought you'll never see that again. And I think that's what ruined it for all the other movies, though. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I do too.
They hit the peak, and now it's on the way.
That was it. Like, how do you beat that now? It's like, how do you even come close with that now?
I tell you, Secret Wars, with what I understand it to be from the two different storylines, if they do it right and bring in the characters that X-Men and Fantastic Four, I think it could rival Endgame.
It could. It definitely could.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I got my fingers crossed. I do want to see it succeed. I even told him, like I said, I feel like this reminds me of back in the day when everybody was into cowboy Indians. I felt like if you had too much of it, it does wear people out. So you get to the point where people, and I said it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen because you were getting superheroes on the TV, you were getting superheroes in the movies, and I thought, oh my God, they got to be. People are going to get tired of this after a while. And
here's my concern is that when I see any Western comic books or cowboy comic books, I just browse right past them.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping the superhero one doesn't go that route because I got a lot of superhero ones here.
Yeah, you do have to worry about it. It's always been up and down over the generations, but you wonder,
But
I got to say. I feel like
60s.
Because of movies, I think it's taking.
I think so too. Yeah, it's becoming ingrained into pop culture lore. So.
Yeah, but every show back in the 60s and 70s was cowboys, or 50s. So I think the fact they spread it out, and because comic books have been superheroes have been popular from that 60s on, right? When they went from Astonishing Tales to Iron Man's own book and all that, the superhero that's 40, 50 years ingrained. And so I should stay, but I just, I'm same way you say. I'm like,
Yeah, you got to think about it. Gabby my daughter will have a friend over now and then, and all of a sudden she'll start talking about the characters and being, attuned to them. And I'd say, oh, do you know the Marvel character? Yeah. And we get the conversation going, and I say, oh, did you ever collect comics? They're like, no.
Yeah.
And I realized, there's the disconnect now. There's that disconnect I didn't think of,
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's what the movies have been now influencing the comic books.
Yes.
So they're retconning a lot of things they put in the movies into the comics. So that kind of makes people like yourself or me who knew one storyline and then they change it. And you're like, what's this?
I was okay with certain changes. Like someone just said to me, like the Miss Marvel is changing, or like they're doing something with it that's going to make it different now. And I thought, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm not too much into modern comics, so I can't speak too much to that. So
okay.
Yeah. Well, they're making her a mutant, Miss Marvel.
Oh, I guess that's the thing. Yeah, she was an Inhuman in the comics, and now they're making her a mutant.
That's what I heard. That's what I was hearing. I thought, there's some changes I felt like they needed to do. Like when you look at Henry Pym, having made, Ultron, you sit there and go, really? How do those two sciences go together? It's like I never put him as. I could see Iron Man being the one.
That's a great point. Like, it totally makes much more sense that Stark made it versus Pym.
Yeah, so I was okay with like my buddy and I we always were okay with some of the changes that they did. It made more sense to us,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We're coming up on 90 minutes here, Jeff, but this was awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I love chit-chatting about this kind of stuff. So anytime anybody wants to learn, I feel like we got to save those books out there. So the more people doing it, the better, especially there's only so many old ones out there. And, if we can make them a little bit better,
And I tell you something that where I live, a lot of people like to hunt. I'm sure you might have people that hunt, deer and whatnot. And where I live at, people don't really want to tell you where they shoot deer at because they want to keep them to themselves. But I've noticed people who know how to grade books or work on books tell people, they tell them how to do it. So I can appreciate someone who has the knowledge to get that out there to others to help the whole industry out. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah, because it's about the comic community. You want these to last. You don't want to see, like, now I see all the defects that are in that guide now because of people not doing the books correctly. They're not pressing and cleaning right, and now they're making them worse and not better.
Yep.
So that's why I like Mike said, he loved that I was a purist. I only do distilled water, dry cleaning. So I'm not. There's certain things that, hey, the book's got a history. I can't change that. So if there's certain things in it, it's just going to stay in there, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not using peroxide. I'm not using any of that other stuff that may make it a little bit better, but it's just the way I do it.
No, that's the way it should be done. So we do appreciate it. And we lost.
Oh, there he is.
We're back.
All right. But no, we appreciate you being on. I'm glad
that
you're able to help Mike have a better collection, so he can show it off. And we'll probably follow you on IG and see what you got to show off as you start to, if you're going to do a claim sale and move on to your real passion. So we'll definitely be checking that out.
Yeah, I can talk to you guys about it. If you need an inside to know what I got, I can always let you know.
Sounds great. Love it.
Appreciate that. All right, Jeff.
All right, man.
We'll see everybody on the next episode. Peace out.
All right.
Later.